This is our last video for Chapter 1 on data collection, last video for Section 1.6. Okay, this is example number 2. To help assess student learning in her developmental physics courses, a physics professor at a university implemented pre- and post-tests for her developmental physics students. A knowledge gained score was obtained by taking the difference of the two test scores. So a test before you even learn anything, and a test at the end, and the difference between the scores on that test, which both are assessing the same stuff, would determine how much knowledge was gained. Okay, what type of experimental design is this? Well, in this case, you're going to have two numbers, right? And they need to be paired for each student. You don't want just the pre-test for Joe mixed with the post-test for Sue, right? So this is matched pair. We have the two scores per student. We want to keep those together, right? Okay. What is the response variable in this experiment? Ultimately, what they're measuring is the difference of the two tests, right? The difference of the two tests. Not necessarily what they made on them. It's just the difference, right? We're really interested in how much they gained. Even if they went from a 20 to a 60, that's what we're interested in. It's not that they made 100 on it or anything. What's the treatment? What did they do? That in between those two tests, what happened? They took a physics course. We're thinking that treatment will change the difference between the two scores. Okay, last example. The researchers wanted to determine whether the stomach shrinks as a result of dieting. They randomly divided 23 obese patients into two groups. The 14 people in the experimental group were placed on a diet that allowed them to consume 2,508 calories per day for 4 weeks. The 9 subjects in the control group ate as they normally would. To assess the size of the stomach, a latex gastric balloon was inserted into each subject's stomach and filled with the maximum amount of water that could be tolerated by the patient, and the volume of water was compared to the volume of water that could be tolerated at the beginning of the study. So they're using this water thing to determine how big the stomach was at the beginning and the end to see if there's any shrinkage. The experimental subjects experienced a 27% reduction in gastric capacity, while the subjects in the control group had no change in their gastric capacity, size of their stomach. It was concluded that a reduction in gastric capacity, size of the stomach, occurs after a restricted diet. So what type of experimental design was this? Well, we took 23 people and they were randomly placed into one of the two groups. So this is completely randomized design. That says completely. Sorry. I cannot write. Completely. There we go. What is the population being studied? Well, this was out of obese individuals. So since they all fit that definition, that was our entire population. What is the response variable? Is it qualitative or quantitative? So they're measuring the volume of the stomach. And I'm going to try that again. Stomach. And would that be quantitative or qualitative? Well, we're measuring it, so it would be quantitative. It's not a category. Okay, what are the treatments? Well, one group had the 2,508 calorie diet versus the other group had a normal diet. Those are the two. I put versus, but anyway, those two. This one and that one. What were the experimental units? 23 obese patients. Okay, so we've learned now how to read about some research and break it down into the parts based on the definitions we've come to understand in this section. And that concludes Chapter 1.